Young. Now, that game, incredible. You guys dominated. I want to ask you a little bit about coming off of some of the losses from TSM. How were you able to regain your confidence and pull off today's win?
Well, at one point I was like, everybody's like, just play with no regrets, and that started working. So Mithy always like said, just play with no regrets, right? And the last 2 games, I just did that, and I just played normally, like in scrims. Before, like my first 2 games, like I was like shaking and stuff. I was afraid I was gonna misclick flash, and I wasn't thinking because I was afraid of like doing that stuff. So just played just like that.
Well, I mean, that may have worked to your advantage because today you had a very dominant game. Was just playing without risks the only thing that changed about your play today, or was there something that you guys had done in practice?
In practice, we just tackled like all our issues. Like when it came to communication, I think that we still need work on that, but it just improved a lot compared to the first week. And since we started practice late, we're only going to get even better as time goes.
Now, talking about those communication issues, I wanted to ask, what is TSM doing as a team to kind of combat those? And you specifically, what are you doing to address those issues?
So personally, I think that when I'm in control of the game, that I can, like step up and shot call and tell us what to do next. Or say, for example, like Soren is popping off and he's really fed, then he'll take control of the game in that situation. We still haven't figured it out 100%, but we might continue to do like the 3-man shot calling, 3-man, and go into the game with a lot of different inputs, or we might just go to 1 main shot caller. It's just going to we just have to experiment with it.
Now, a lot of the fan base focus for TSM was that 1-3 start. Now you guys are 2-3. Is TSM as focused on that score, or with 6 weeks left in the season, are you guys just ready to pick up more wins?
So I think, and Jesper, Sven, had a really good thing to say, that it's just fucking week 2. So I think that's pretty much how we think about that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for this interview. And to wrap up this day, we are going to hear from our friends at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. 2-3 TSM, our only winless team in the Golden Guardians, sitting at 0-5. But, to Mike Young's point, that team not too concerned with their record as it stands right now, definitely looking towards improvement and the late season finish.
Yeah, definitely easier to say you're not worried about the record after a win, right? If they're like 0-5, be like, it's only week 3, guys. So the fact that I think they're turning the corner a little bit is more so why they would be less worried. Mike Young having a better game, saying he's playing without regrets when, I mean, there's nothing to regret. So it's much easier to play about regrets when you have an 8-kill-0 death game.
So you tell me this is a perfect game,
I wish we could have said
very close.
From Jat's mouth, perfect game, first perfect. No, I'm kidding. But
They
it
played
was.
really
It actually, in all serioussness, it was a near perfect game in the sense that it never really felt like TSM didn't have control over the fact that they were going to win it. Sejuani, Mike Young's performance. I mean, he definitely got some stuff done in the early game, 100% KP through the laning phase, helping get some of his main carries fed.
And just intelligent ganks overall. The enemy team takes a squishy support that's going to try and bully out the lane, so you go after it early on. You get the flash out, means it's going to be susceptible to repeat gank, so he comes back down at level 6. They're able to hit this one. A little bit of miscoordination. The Q misses out of Mithy, but they're able to just platform this fine. Bjergsen's also making his way down, so it's good to see that this is a multi-man effort as opposed to just a single gank attempt.
Yeah, and even though he misses the ultimate in the mid lane here on high-end contracts, they stick around. He stacks up the passive on both, gets 2 E's off, sticks around high as well, but then is still able to get back with the W on Sejuani. And this was the real disaster because Mike Young was actually holding the Eye of the Herald, so they could just pop it right after that double kill and blow the game wide open.
Yeah, huge advantage off of that mid lane play right there. Interestingly enough, Jat, in those early rolls for the bot lane, we saw, like, kind of un-TSM-like aggression, in a sense, at least as we compare it to, again, their first couple weeks of the split. We even likened it in the moment to the LPL, watching the LPL and seeing 5 summoners used on a single gank to secure 1 kill.
And it did slow down a little bit after that. I think if you are a TSM fan, you want to be like, we're back. It's like, oh, hold on a little bit. It's this Golden Guardians, your other victories over Optic. They need like 1 solid win before I think you can really go that far, but it is a massive step in the right direction.
Exactly, and we were kind of commenting that aside from this game ending in 32 minutes, it was very similar to TSM's game against Optic and TSM's game against EchoFox. And Flowers had a quote that we were like, this could apply to any TSM game. He's like, the state of the game is about the same as the state of the game it was a few minutes ago, or something like that. He said it much better than I did. But the fact that they actually did then force Baron and make the next step is what was lacking in week 2. So if you do look at the progression of this team in week 1, totally hapless. In week 2, they got the first 15 minutes and then hapless after that. And here, now they got about 28 minutes that are going well. Soon enough, feels like they're trending in the right direction.
Incremental improvement for TSM. That's what we're looking for. That's what they've given us so far, but they need to go a lot further if they want to contest for top team in the region. On the side of Golden Guardians, okay, we're 1 day into the coaching announcement. Obviously, there's next to nothing we can draw in terms of, solid conclusions. But this is the only team yet to put a win on the board, and so pretty quickly here, we're going to have to start talking about morale. We're going to have to start talking about what changes do you make? How do you find those victories?
And this is a tough question to answer because the org came in with a very different motto, in a sense, than everyone else, where they're talking about player development and all NA roster, and that's a thing where it's like, okay, so you're kind of expected to lose. Did you expect to lose this bad? Is this a concern now? Like, it's hard to say from the outside exactly what could be going on within this team's internal atmosphere.
All righty, well, EchoFox's loss at the top of the day means they share first with Cloud9, 100 Thieves, and Team Liquid, while Counterlogic Gaming and TSM move up to 5th place alongside Clutch Gaming and FlyQuest. Before we move on to tomorrow's matches, though, let's go ahead and pull up the player of the games to see who stood out in their wins. For today, they are Stixay, Smoothie, Meteos, Pobelter, and Mike Young. Looking at this roster of fellows, who do we want to talk about?
I kind of like Smoothie just because he was someone that we were talking about ones to watch today. Had a great game, obviously was able to kind of lead C9 to victory, and that was very impressive for me.
Yeah, we were super close to actually getting one from every role. I was trying to go through right there. We had 2 junglers, an AD, a support, and a mid laner. So close on the top lane.
No good top laners in that name, man. That's
really, it's strange, too, because even last week we were commenting that a lot of the games were being played around the top lane. And I know we didn't necessarily see any kind of direct changes to too many of the picks, but I felt like today a lot of the game was trending around the mid lane and bottom lane, and the top laners just kind of neutralizing each other.
Looking at that set of 5 players, I actually wanted to point at Pobelter. I know we gave him a fair amount of praise following their game, in which he was a large part of their early lead on his Corki play, but in general, this is a guy whose career has always existed in the shadow of maybe 1 or 2 other mid laners. And so, again, the question is, with a struggling TSM, on the boards, and again, a CLG that is also struggling, is this maybe Pobelter's year to finally solidify himself as perhaps, the top or mid laner rather in NA?
Man, I got to check myself every time I say positive things about Pobelter, because we were having this discussion at Worlds before week 2 last year with the Mortals, and we had all these graphics prepared about, like, Pobelter finally turning the corner. He had an amazing week 1 at Worlds, and then did really poorly. So, like, he actually has, for as consistent as it feels like he's been, I think he's a very inconsistent player. So he's been consistently really good at the start of this year, and I hope it's his year because I really like the guy.
I think given the start of the split, it's hard to argue with anyone specifically over him. Maybe Jensen, but it is very close amongst those 2 probably for my top mid right now.
All right, we'll see who can stand out with our matchups tomorrow. The day starts with EchoFox versus Optic Gaming. And then TSM try to knock down 100 Thieves with 3 more games before we close out the weekend. Now for myself, the casters, and the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for more LCS. Good night. LCS.